Hey guys, yesterday I spotted an albino Dalmatian.
Oh,
I thought they came spotted.
It was the least I could do.
Da-da-da.
Wow. Wow.
How you guys doing?
Pretty good. I'm still in Germany.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Coming home in a couple of days.
The land of the Lederhosen.
Have you had your fill of sausage and beer yet?
I don't drink beer, but I am definitely enjoying liverwurst.
Nice.
Liverwurst. But no sausage. None of the classics.
I've had some hot dogs and vice versa.
Hot dogs. You go to Germany, you get hot dogs?
Well,
Right.
Yeah, we go to a lot
Oscar
of cookbooks.
Mayer. All right. Let's get to it. We've got a few stories. I think 7 in the queue today.
It sounds about
Yep.
right.
Let's start with Discord. Discord.io suffers massive data breach, announces closure permanently. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah. So Discord.io is a third-party service. So it's not Discord. It's a
it's not
third-party
Discord.
service known for offering custom URL invites for Discord servers.
Okay.
Right? So you have the ability to when you set up your own server, you can then go and say, I want to create a link, which has a bunch of crazy characters in it. And then you can go to Discord.io and you can say, can you make this kind of minimized, if you will?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can send it out.
Okay.
The problem being, they suffered a data breach. Now, the data breach involved 760,000 users worth of information.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, that's not good. On top of that, so some of the information they got, your internal user ID, information about your avatar, which anybody can see anyway, so not really super sensitive. Your status, I guess, could be important. Your coin balance, okay, not that important. Your API key, which doesn't give access to really anything on the server from an authentication standpoint.
Okay.
Your registration date and your last payment date if you're paying for Discord, if you're paying for, Discord server, Discord Premium or whatever. However, the thing that they did kind of that was leaked, that was sensitive, your username, your Discord ID itself, because it's
geez.
different than your username, your email address,
Okay.
your billing address,
There we go.
and your salted hashed password.
Okay. So it's the password hash. It's not.
Yeah.
But it's salted too,
Yeah.
so that means that it's much more
Well,
secure. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So if I just take a password and hash it, then in order to get it, you have to try and brute force it. But if the site hashes it with salt, meaning they mix characters in with it, well then I'd have to do my brute force guess with that same salt.
Right.
And so it really lengthens the password. So even if you take an 8-character password and salt it with 8 characters, it's now a 16-character password. And so the dictionary attacks don't work
Right.
anymore. So it really is good about stopping dictionary attacks. It's really good at stopping brute force attacks that don't go through the whole namespace. And so it makes a lot more work for the hackers. And that's why a salted hash is much better than an unsalted hash. You need that spice, a little spice.
But I use Bitwarden, and my passwords are just nonsense. They're just random characters, and I really don't care because they're not words. So a dictionary attack isn't going to work on me, young Jedi.
Nope.
That's true.
Right.
But salt is an extra step that the developer, the hoster can provide to actually go the extra mile to help with people who maybe use weaker passwords. It's also a good stalling tactic for if you want people to only have 8-character passwords, but you want them to have actually 16
Right. Yeah,
character
sure.
passwords. You just add eight characters of salt, and the salt is usually different for every
Right.
user. Maybe it's a hash of the username, or it's a hash of some GUID that's associated with the account.
So sometimes the salt is stored in the database along with the hash. Did they get the salt as well?
Yeah.
Or just the salted hash?
Not that we know
Yeah,
of.
not that we know of, just the
the
salted
salted
hash. And what's interesting is Discord, I think it was in 2018, this article says, Discord switched over to a Discord-only login option. So, for example, when I go to log into Discord on my computer, usually it says, hey, scan this QR code with your phone that's already logged in, right? I don't even know that I really have a Discord password anymore. So there was very few users where they had passwords and salts. So really concerning. Yeah, you shouldn't be using the same password, especially if it were prior to 2018.
Right.
If you were using a Discord password prior to 2018, it may be in this breach. And if you're using it for other things, you want to change it.
Patrick, do militaries use Discord?
They shouldn't. I wouldn't know. I'm sure some units might have non-classified reasons to have a Discord just to organize, but I wouldn't organize more than a company picnic out in a public platform like that. So would the U.S. military use it for secure information? Absolutely not. Would members in some units use it? Yeah, they might.
I thought I heard a news story about Discord being used by maybe not militaries, but sort of, terrorist cells or that kind of thing.
I use Discord all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking about
you
Dwayne.
mentioned terrorist cells. Yeah.
He knows I'm talking about.
No, we use it. Actually, Discord is an awesome C2 structure. So when
what does that mean?
Command and control.
Okay. If I break into a company and I want to have remote control over the computer I broke into, I can run a tiny little script that will log that computer into my Discord server. And then I can chat with the computer directly. I can say, oh, computer, can you go run this command? Can you tell me who you are? Can you go get this file for me and give it back to me, etc.? And it will use Discord to do that. And that way...
Is that like an SSH connection or something?
Yeah. Yep. It's an encrypted chat communication back to my Discord server. What's really nice about that is most corporate firewalls don't block Discord because it is a communications channel, right? And because it's encrypted, they can't see what's inside that communications channel. So yeah, it makes it real easy for me to control hordes of computers.
I mean, but you don't have the same facilities, but in some ways, Teams and Zoom and all the other tools for productivity are like that. Yeah, they could be. Although Discourse is a little more hacker friendly.
Right.
Okay. Well, this next story is right in my wheelhouse. Not in my wheelhouse, in my neighborhood. This happened in my town. Charter Oak is a credit union in Waterford and Groton and all over this area. And they were cyber attacked. And Kelly actually saw this in the paper.
Oh, wow.
Which was, I think it was July 16th or July 14th, something like that. Yeah. And I didn't really talk about it because it was still up in the air and they were closed down for like 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So but a report just came out that the credit union's president and chief executive officer said Charter Oak hired a group of IT specialists known as a Cybersecurity Incident Response Organization, or CSIRO. Is that what you guys are?
We cause the responses. No. We don't actually respond.
Okay.
No.
To look into the incident. And he said the CSIRO supported Charter Oak's conclusion that, quote, the incident was a result of cyber criminals taking advantage of a weakness in our domain name service implementation. The criminals were able to spoof emails and conduct inappropriate activity that led several virus protection software companies to blacklist charteroak.org, which in turn prevented their members from accessing the website. And they rectified the issue and notified Charter Oak's DNS registrar that it was safe to reinstate access to charteroak.org, he said. So there you go.
So that's something we haven't talked about, is that you can get blacklisted so that your emails get rejected by a lot of your client organizations. Yeah. And it just requires you to be a little lazy and not secure your stuff. Yeah. And so, like, if I can get an open relay on your email server, I can send all sorts of spam and malware and things like that. Yeah. And if I do that, these blacklists are going to say, okay, we've identified this as a bad source. We're going to cut off any email from that. And that includes all the actual legitimate email. And so this is an example of where companies aren't getting hurt directly, but it's a consequence. It's kind of like if your web server really slowed down because the hackers were using it to hack other people.
Yeah.
A lot of companies don't care about that kind of thing until it affects them.
You might not know that you're being, blacklisted. You might just find that, hey, nobody's returning my emails.
Yeah, and it can be very costly for a company. It's an underreported problem. We've had clients that, they had that problem, and then, we find out why they ended up on a blacklist. Usually it's because they don't have DMARC or DKIM on, or they've done something that they shouldn't, like a mailing. They let a mailing go out that shouldn't have gone out, and they end up on a blacklist. That it takes a little bit of time to get them off as well.
Yeah. Did you, do you want to say what those things are? DMARC?
Oh, I'm sorry. So there's a number of configuration settings that mostly have to do with DNS that will ensure that organizations will not allow a third party to spoof your email address. Yeah. So pulsarsecurity.com, we implement these protections, which means that a well-configured email server will not accept an email generated from pulsar.com, pulsarsecurity.com, that didn't come from one of our servers.
Okay.
So it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. Cool. And if you guys have been following Black Hat, just happened this past week. There's all sorts of
DEF CON, you mean?
DEF CON and Black Hat. They're coupled together. But there's all sorts of really cool security talks, and a lot of researchers go out and try and discover new exploits that they can drop at Black Hat. And one of the ones that's been getting a lot of hype right now is the ability to bypass SPF and DKIM and that sort of stuff.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's getting more hype than it probably should. And it's interesting. Don't get me wrong. It's an interesting channel, for manipulating, sending mail out. But there have to be a lot of stars aligned. And it's using something called mail channels, which at some point we can go deeper into, but Patrick's right. Having SPF, DKIM, DMARC, set up on your domain is still the safest way. So if you're listening to the news and you hear about this, oh my gosh, mail is broken and, there's no way to fix or protect it. It's a little bit overhyped. Just follow the standards of, putting SPF and DKIM on your domain. And you'll be okay.
And it can be inconvenient because you have to, you'll block some things. There's some configuration. You might get some false positives. There's a whole bunch of things that go into it, but it's worth it. It's kind of a gift that keeps on giving.
All right. Now to the world of Android. Thousands of Android APKs. And we'll talk about what that is in a second. Use compression trick to thwart analysis. So those are packaged app installers. And threat actors increasingly distribute malicious Android APKs that resist decompilation using unsupported, unknown, or heavily tweaked compression algorithms. And the main advantage of this approach is to evade detection by security tools using static analysis and hamper examination by researchers, delaying the development of an in-depth understanding of how Android malware strain works.
So let's say something right here. If you had a food testing program that detected poison and it said error, unable to test, would you eat it anyway?
That's a good question. Touche, Patrick.
So, this is a problem for Google. Google shouldn't allow non-conforming compression. If it fails the compression test, it shouldn't be allowed because these techniques are obvious.
Well, but I wonder.
But Google doesn't police it.
No, agreed, 100%. And they're doing static analysis. So let's assume I'm an evil hacker. Let's just assume that. And I know, right? And I create a compression algorithm, right? Oh my God, how are we going to ever imagine that?
Let's assume you're an American male.
So, I create this compression algorithm and I compress a bit of malware that I want to run on your phone or Android device. Because you're doing static analysis, right, which is a key here. Dynamic analysis is when you allow the program to run and watch what it's doing and then analyze it. Static analysis is what Google does before they allow it on the store. They take the file and they just run it through a virus scanner. It's like right-click, virus scan. Does it come up?
Right.
Because the compressed malware is not in a format that can be analyzed, it just passes. But it doesn't necessarily see that it's compressed. right? Or deflated.
It just thinks it's binary data of some kind.
It just thinks it's binary data that's in the application that doesn't meet any straight format. If Google really does want to, make sure that this is, have something deeper, then they probably need also dynamic analysis, right? So run the application, see what's happening.
Maybe we should go and teach them what that is. Because I'm sure Google's never heard of dynamic analysis because they're such a small company.
Can you imagine how hard that would be with these applications, though? Like to run an Android app and click on every function?
See, Patrick's in Germany, and it's the middle of the night there, and I can't see the smile and the wink in his eye when he says stuff like that.
Twinkle.
So I thought he was serious for a brief second.
Right.
So why did the German chicken cross the road?
I don't know.
Because those are the rules.
I bet
another variation is he's following orders.
I bet there are 0 Germans in your vicinity who would laugh at that joke.
I've tried it on several and it did not work.
No.
German jokes. No. You cannot take a joke.
It probably just made sense to them. I'm like, of course he did because he was supposed to.
Of course, yeah. Und?
Hey, we're going to take a little break and we'll come back with a little story about you and your Ford infotainment system and drive-by Wi-Fi attacks. Isn't that fun, kids? Stick around. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. You're listening to Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Patrick Hines. Jawohl, Herr Heinz. And he's in Germany. And Dwayne LaFlotte. And I just want to make sure that we're done with the Android APK thing before we move on to Ford. Is there anything else that
I think so.
No?
Other than if you're using an Android, don't.
Are there any more insults for Google?
No, that we're good.
No, come on.
Friends don't let friends use Android.
Right.
Well, come on.
You know what? The problem is the distance between the security of the platforms is so vast now. It's really hard. In the beginning, I was really rooting for Android.
Oh, yeah. I love open
Apple
source.
Apple just does a better job.
Yep.
Apple just does so much of a better job and so much more secure.
And they can.
In so many different ways.
Because they own everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Google, it's not like Google's poor. If they wanted to be in the phone business, Microsoft got out of the phone business because they realized how much they would have to do.
Well, and Android is a more popular platform. More people use Android than iOS.
Could you imagine if Microsoft tried to get away with some of this?
Oh my God.
Not possible.
All right.
Anyways.
To the drive-by Wi-Fi hijack. Almost rhymed.
In 5 years, are we going to be saying which car brand is more secure?
Probably.
I think we're saying
we're
it right
already
now.
there. Yeah.
I would rather have a Saab
Not
than
Ford.
a Ford. I think that's a song by Paul Simon, isn't it? Ford Sync 3 infotainment vulnerable to drive-by Wi-Fi hijacking. And the tagline is, "Don't panic," says automaker. But if you do, just turn off wireless for now. If you panic, if you're going to panic. All right. Well, so Ford has suggested owners of vehicles equipped with its Sync 3, and that's SYNC. It's an acronym, I guess. Infotainment system, disable the Wi-Fi lest someone nearby exploits a buffer overflow vulnerability and hijacks the equipment. Whoa.
Yeah, this is an interesting exploit. And I always find these types of exploits really cool, where it's like there's a device designed to do something, wash dishes, it's a refrigerator, whatever, but you can get it to do all sorts of other things by manipulating what it receives. In this particular case, the MCP driver, so just one of the drivers that manages, information elements, which is part of the infotainment system. It has no limit on the number of elements that it will try and parse. So it's not like, let's say, we'll simplify it. Let's say you want to listen to 100 songs. It's like, okay, cool. I want to listen to 1,000 songs. All right, great. I want to listen to 1 trillion songs. Sure, why not, right? But there's an upper limit that's there where you just can't hold a number that large, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here is they are exceeding the number of information elements being passed into the management frame, and then you can get it to do things.
And the stupid programmers, who are always the real problem, aren't they? They did not check.
Easy, it's a trap.
They did not check to see that the input number is actually going to fit in an integer or whatever.
It's something reasonable. Yeah, and it's honestly, it's tough.
Just go ahead and convert it to an integer and whatever happens and no error handling and boom.
What could go
So
wrong?
now if the index information element index is greater than or equal to 3, it'll throw an error just saying, hey, listen, number of information elements is too high.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So don't panic. But if you do, turn off Wi-Fi. Love that.
You know, it is funny. Okay, so wait, what are the risks here?
Yeah.
So I'm the bad hacker. I break in, I get a buffer overrun. It doesn't end there. What I need to do is I need to put a piece of malicious software. Like buffer overrun just crashes your infotainment system. Like woohoo, who cares? But it says it can potentially lead to remote code execution. Well, how does that work? Well, if I feed, let's say instead of feeding it the number, 2 or 1, which is apparently acceptable for information elements, I feed it the number 3. Well, it pops a buffer. And then at that point, it will run whatever garbage I put on the stack after that. So I could put a number that's large and then put something on the stack.
Right. So you're actually sending an array of bytes that and turn out to be code, the first 4 of which might be an integer, but it treats the whole thing as an integer and boom, crashes. Right. And now all the rest of that byte array is code that gets run.
Exactly. Now, you say to yourself, okay, what could you do with that? Right? I mean, with that code that you're running, how much space do you think is sitting in memory that you can exploit? And I can tell you, usually when we write buffer overruns, there's not a lot of space there. There's very little sort of empty space on the stack to put your code. So you have to start like doing what's called return-oriented programming, grabbing different functions from different DLLs. So you really have to have a pretty solid knowledge of the operating system that you're manipulating within. Mm-hmm. But then what? Like, what's the end goal? Could I control the car? Probably not. Could I get on the CAN bus? Doubtful, but possible.
I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound good. Get on the CAN bus.
So, yeah, get on the CAN bus. So, okay. So when you communicate, I do a lot of robotics and automotive type programming, but in robots, usually we're talking about I2C communications, which is a binary communication protocol on think of like the nervous system of the robot. Okay. In a car, in automotive, the standard is CAN communications. So there's a bus that goes through your entire car, and all a bus is all of your different wires are communicating up and down. Think like an information highway in the middle of your car.
Sure.
And all of your tire sensors, your whether your oil pressure is low, all of that is coming over this bus, the CAN bus.
A conduit, you might call it.
A conduit, if you will. Yeah. If we were talking about the Enterprise, it would be that the conduit that Geordie LaForge would jump in to fix.
The Jeffries too.
Oh my God. Yes. So needless to say, this CAN bus does have control over car systems.
Well, it can.
But do we think that this, well, we think it can. Boom, boom. But, does something like your entertainment system have access to the CAN bus in a way that can manipulate car protocols and whatnot? Probably not.
They're saying no.
So honestly,
they're saying no.
The risk here is super low. If somebody were to try and do this to you, it'd probably have to reboot the system, but I would mark this as not super important.
Well, they might be able to wreak havoc with the driver by trying to convince them that their car is about to explode and they need to pull over, leave it running, and run away as fast as they can so that you could steal it.
Yeah, if you can get access to the CAN bus, you could definitely. There's a lot of havoc.
You're getting pretty evil
Thank
there.
You. I've been taking evil lessons from Dwayne, and it's paying off.
Ooh, Carl, we have room on our team. With a forward thinker like you.
I have to.
You had to eat someone.
Yeah, I have to get my stainless steel room together.
And your hairless cat.
Don't ask what happened to the predecessor who had that slot.
All right.
He displeased the masters.
All right. Cortana. Cortana is out. Microsoft shuts down Cortana on Windows 11. I don't think it's sad. I think they probably have some better things in store that are linked up with GPT, right?
But listen, as a Halo diehard fan, well, I say diehard fan. I don't play it as well as Patrick, but as a Halo fan,
as a Halo Cortana was always diehard fan,
right? Yeah, exactly. Cortana was like the epitome of digital personas, and you're like, I can have this on my computer. This is so cool. But then being a security guy, I always turned it off. I'm like, no, I don't want anything listening to me. Are you crazy?
Yeah, right.
So I get it, but it's sad.
We call that evidence.
So they link in this article to another article called End of Support for Cortana in Windows and Teams. And that says that they're making some changes to Windows and Microsoft 365 that'll impact Cortana users. Voice access and the new Bing is what they're saying you should be using. The new AI-powered Bing lets you ask complex questions and get concise answers, yada, yada, yada. Microsoft 365 Copilot. It's a new feature that uses AI to turn your words into a powerful productivity tool. And then Windows Copilot. So this is a new thing for preview in Windows 11. In June, Windows Copilot provides centralized AI assistance. Together with Bing Chat and first and third party plugins, you can focus on yada yada. And we're going to keep innovating. Aren't we awesome? So there you go. So it's not really the end of Cortana-ish. It's just that particular product is going away.
It's like Windows Phone.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of Microsoft, who wants the next one?
All right, I'll take this one.
Dwayne wants this one.
Yeah, Dwayne wants this one. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this particular exploit, but let's rehash it a little bit. So this is CVE 2023-32019. Discovered by Google Project Zero, surprisingly enough. Although honestly, the Project Zero team is fantastic and brilliant. I always just love to see Google finding issues with Microsoft.
Yeah.
Because, keep the vendetta alive. But so what's interesting about this particular exploit is what Project Zero, what they had figured out is that an authenticated user. So here you could probably dial down some of the noise. You have to be authenticated to a user system. You have to have a username and password to be able to get on that system. But once you're there was an exploit where you could extract sensitive information from privileged processes. So from a process that has elevated privileges, maybe you can see passwords or whatever, I can extract some information from that. Microsoft
run as administrator.
Sure. And Microsoft initially had put a fix out for this, backed off a little bit because they were concerned that it might cause some issues. And now they're just coming back and saying, yes, we've re-enabled that fix. So moral of this story, if you haven't gone out and patched Windows recently, go patch. Do I think this is, interestingly enough, it has a medium severity as a 4.7, but everybody's saying it's like super important. This isn't, if you were to get attacked, this isn't the beginning of the attack, right? Okay. The beginning of the attack is phishing or somebody conning you into clicking on something you shouldn't have clicked on, or you going to a site you shouldn't have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is just something that would be in that chain. That would allow them to move further in the system. So, important, yes. Burn the world down, no. It doesn't. It doesn't get the awesome rating from Dwayne. It's okay. It's okay.
We were just killing time before we got to the real story, which is about Zoom. Zoom. Remember, I told you that I think these guys are evil because, first of all,
we talked about it last week.
No, I didn't talk. Did I? This was a long time ago.
I think
I asked you if you had heard of any stories about Zoom, spying on people and using data, and it turns out they were. Well, they could have been, but here's the story. So, Zoom updates terms of service to clarify that it won't use your calls to train AI. A vague, previously specified term of service implied that customer data could be used for AI training. Earlier this week, video conferencing company Zoom made headlines for a recent terms of service update that implied that its customers' video calls could be used to train AI models. Those terms basically saying, we can see what you're doing, right?
Right.
Is this similar to your Uber driver saying they're not going to kill you?
Maybe.
reassuring you, thank you, sir. I'll take you to your destination. I will not meet you later.
Although, it could be as benign as, this call may be recorded for training purposes.
Sure.
Okay. What are you going to do? Like not get your money back by calling up
so someone
the airline?
Someone did forward me their terms of service, and it was egregious. It sounded like they owned all the content. Like they owned it. Like if you it even concerned me, like if you discussed a novel idea that you were going to patent that you couldn't because they would own it.
So I have it right here. The thing with we've been forwarding this around because we use Zoom in a lot of our internal meetings. And, it gave us pause when we started looking at this. It says customer license grantee. This is in 10.4 of the license agreement. You agree to grant and hereby grant Zoom a perpetual worldwide non-exclusive royalty-free sub-license, transferable license, and all other rights required or necessary to redistribute, publish, import, access, use, store, transmit, review, disclose, preserve, extract, modify, reproduce, share, use, display, copy, distribute, translate, transcribe, create derivative works from, process customer content, and to perform all acts with respect to customer content as it may be necessary for Zoom to provide you service, including support service for the purposes of this product, development, marketing, analytics, quality assurance, machine learning, artificial intelligence, training, testing, improvement of services, software, and Zoom's other products and services and software and combinations thereof.
In other words, it's a license to spy on you. And so that we knew that they could, we just didn't know that they did. And now we know that they do.
Right. And it's in the terms of agreement, so you're okay with it, apparently.
They're saying now that they don't actually, but I don't think they changed the terms.
I haven't looked for the updated terms.
Here's the quote. Zoom does not use any of your audio, video, chat, screen sharing, attachments, or other communications like customer content. Communications like, that's a dash. Other communications, let's see. So that's ambiguous. Communications like customer content, such as poll results, whiteboard, and reactions to train Zoom or third-party artificial intelligence models. Well, that's very vague, isn't it? I mean, but it still means they have access to it and they can do whatever the hell they want with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're just reassuring us, sign this contract that allows me to take your house away, but I won't.
Yeah, well, I promise I won't.
I think that's the nail in the coffin for me with Zoom. I'm not going to be using it anymore.
Well, I mean, I think you could be on a Zoom with a client and not discuss, secure things. But I think it's the death for us for some of the things that we would, normally. But you have to trust somebody. And I don't know that the others are much better.
Well, you can run your own servers that do this kind of stuff and you have end-to-end control over it.
Sure.
I mean,
we can, but most people it's difficult. Yeah. What I don't want to do is have people say, we can't use Zoom because they might do this. The world is going to keep using Zoom. Just be aware of what's possible. If you use a public phone, if I use my cell phone for communication, I still use my cell phone to call people. But if we're going to talk about, abducting Carl Franklin and, holding him for whiskey ransom, we don't do that on regular phones.
Well, that's a great idea, though.
We do that over Zoom.
Abduct me, whiskey ransom, and as long as you share the booty with me, I'm happy.
I don't drink, so you pretty much get it all. So that's kind of...
Hey, you got to split it with me.
Would Kelly pay is the question.
Well, I don't know. She might just say, keep him. All right, guys. Thanks. This has been fun. No more Zoom for me, though.
Thanks, guys.
I'll see you next week.
No more. Zoom.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.